Victoria, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time. I know it's extremely valuable, not only to me, but to everybody. So thank you so much. I just want to
Thanks
start
for
by
having
asking,
me.
oh, it's my pleasure. I just want to start by asking you if you could tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do, how you became involved with the essay grading process, things like that.
I am a criminal defense and family law attorney. I graduated from Wayne State in 2012, and I have been grading bar exams for the last 2 years now. Year or last 2 years. It feels like it's been 2 years. Um, I came to be a bar exam grader because the State Board of Law Examiners, every time there is a new board member appointed, they have to select three graders. They can either keep the previous board members' three graders, or they can bring on their own three, or they can keep some and bring on new ones. So I was one of, I believe, two new ones that the board member I report to has brought on since she's been appointed to the board. And I grade one question, and I grade that one question for all examinees every cycle.
So that means if there's 700 people taking the exam, basically you're going to be grading 700 essays.
hmm hmm
You must get pretty sick of that question.
I tell you, after the first 10, 20, you know exactly, what you're going to see for the most part from a examinee who has a good understanding and grasp of the material and the subject matter.
That's very good to know. All right, perfect. Well, I just have a couple of questions. First, I'm going to ask them about the grading process in general, and then I'm going to ask them about general tips you have after seeing, so many of these essays. So my first question is, when you're grading essays, do you know whose essay you're grading, or is it anonymous? Like, do you know anything about them, or is it basically completely anonymous?
I know nothing about the writer. When I'm grading essays, all I have is a seat number, and the seat number is on the cover page. I don't even remember the seat number by the time I flipped it to begin grading the essay. That's just how insignificant it is. So I don't know if the student went to Michigan State versus Wayne State for law school. I don't know if the student is a man or a woman that is either from Detroit or from Grand Rapids. No idea.
Good to know. Do you grade essays in any kind of order? And if so, what is that order?
I do grade them in an order. So when I receive them, they come in sealed packages. They're delivered to our home by courier. Um, and when I open them up, more than likely, seat number one is at the top of one box and it goes down from there. And so typically, I just pick them up and I grade, as I go, typically starting from seat number one, two, three, four, and so on and so forth.
That makes sense. Perfect. And do you grade essays on a rubric?
I do. So there is a rubric that the board members have come up with, and the graders are given the rubric in draft form, and we are asked to grade the first the first 20 or so essays that we choose randomly or however, and to report back if that grading rubric works, in our opinion, if it's fair, if it's capturing most of the answers that I'm reviewing. So if the grading rubric wants to award a point um, for a part of an answer that out of 20 essays, only one person picked up on, more than likely when I report back to the board member that I am assigned to, I'm going to say that. And then we're going to probably modify that grading rubric so that we're not excluding folks from having a full 10-point answer because no one is getting that 1 point for whatever the reason.
That makes sense. Does the grading rubric go up to 10, or have you had rubrics where, a potential of, let's say, 12 points could be awarded, even though nobody's going to score higher than a 10?
There have been instances where we have exceeded 10 points. That's for the board member to decide based on my review of sample answers, or a sample of the answers. And if I'm saying, hey, there are varied answers that I'm getting that are coming up quite often, the board member may decide, well, if we go up to 13 points, that captures, again, a good portion of the examinees who are providing us with those answers, and they should be awarded points. But we also have some cycles where we say 10 is it. We're not seeing anything that will cause us to want to exceed 10. So 10 is it.
Perfect. That makes sense. Okay, great. What do you look for in an essay?
I am looking for clear understanding of the law
Mhm.
and the ability to analyze a given set of facts based on the law. So I don't look for, but I get it often. I don't like reading a recitation of the facts. I'm sorry. I don't like reading um, a summation of the facts, and then I see very little law and even less of an analysis, because you repeating the facts is not doing an analysis of the facts, applying it to the law. I much rather see, this is this type of an issue. And then so let's say if it's a criminal law question, and the issue is the varying degrees of murder, maybe first degree murder versus second degree murder. I'd much rather have a student start with, this is an issue of, an analysis of first degree murder versus second degree murder. So I know you're setting it up nicely. You know where we are, and then go immediately into the law, the elements of first degree murder, the elements of second degree murder. Keep in mind that Michigan essays apply Michigan law. So I love when I see the first line of the rule, in Michigan, the law is blah, 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 because oftentimes as examinees come to find out during the early part of their bar exam studies, Michigan law is different from common law in many ways, in many areas. And so I love to see that examinees understand that Michigan, for whatever the reason, is different in this area, and that we're applying Michigan law. And they give me the elements under Michigan law of these two crimes, and then apply the facts and tell me what we know and what prong or element of the offense it applies to, and then tell me what we haven't been told, and to show how we're missing some elements. So it can't necessarily, with those missing elements, be argued that it's that particular crime, right? And then close out and tell me what the final answer is. That is the best way to get a 10 or close to a 10. Also, I love when I see thorough, complete answers. Oftentimes, the question may be in two parts, and there may be part two that there's an extra 2 points hanging out in that sub answer, but you didn't catch it. You were so involved in that first answer, that's the meat and potatoes, that you missed the 2 point dessert. So I like when folks simply answer the question, answer it thoroughly.
That makes a lot of sense. And I know I've seen that too, where people just miss a question or miss part of a question, and then they miss out on easy points. Do
Mhm.
students, or I should say, do examinees get points for saying something like, in the hypo you gave, would someone get a point for saying this is a criminal law question, or generally no?
No. Mm-mm. It's helpful if so look at it this way. you won't get a point for stating the obvious. I'm going to know that you know it's a criminal law question by your opening line for the issue and the law for that particular issue, right? So I don't need you to tell me that this is a criminal question because the difference between first and second degree murder you wouldn't have in a property question.
Right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, do you start at a score of 10 and take off points for mistakes, or do you start at a score of 0 and then award points when examinees make the statements that are in your rubric?
You're starting with 0 points. And as I go down my rubric, I am able to grade points for um, answers, and they don't have to specifically be worded like the model answer. But again, give me buzzwords and give me an idea that you know what this material is and how to analyze it properly. And so, as I'm going through your rule, more than likely, they're going to be on average maybe 2 to 5 points that can be awarded for a rule, depending on how complex the rule is. And then you're going to get the bulk of your points for your analysis. So, an analysis, again, is not just a dump of the facts, it is you telling me what the fact is. So, if there was intent, how do we know there was intent? What facts tell us that there was intent to murder? And then tell me how that applies to an element in first degree murder, right? So I want folks to understand that they can make mistakes and put in something that doesn't apply to that issue or that subject matter. They can give me the right rule, but maybe they give me a double analysis on how this could go either way, but then they give me the right conclusion. So they're going to still get more than likely 10 points because I don't take off points for something that's wrong or extra if you still give me the right answers.
Interesting. So if someone makes, a statement that's incorrect or that you're not looking for, you're not subtracting any points. You're just adding points as you see the correct statements being made.
Exactly. I'm looking for ways to give you points, not to take away points. We want people to pass the bar exam.
That's
This is not a gotcha game.
That's good to know, Victoria. All right.
Yeah.
So just talking about some general tips, I know you've touched on a lot of these already. What are some of your best tips for students in terms of formatting their essays? As a grader, what's easiest for you to read? How should students be formatting these in general?
I don't mind, believe it or not, paragraph form, traditional paragraph form, or even bullet points. When I have worked with students in the past, one-on-one, with providing volunteer tutoring through various bar associations, I would always tell students, it's about showing your understanding of the material. It's not an English exam. So I don't care if you can't write a complete sentence or if you just need to get everything out because you are under intense time constraints. I just want to see that you understand and you know it, that you can spot what the issue is, what the law is. You can analyze the provided facts based on the law that you've just written, and that you can get to the proper conclusion. And if that comes out in bullet points where I can just read and see that, yep, keywords, you got it, I don't care if it's not full sentences. But typically, most answers are in paragraph form. Most of them are in Iraq. They don't have to be. Is it easier for me and my brain and my eyes? Absolutely. And it's going to cause me to slow down a little bit, and I got to look for it. And you don't want your grader having to look for key parts of your answer that are, going to earn you points. You want it to be just right there, jumping out in the format in which they're used to, in which most other answers they're reading are going to be in, and that's Iraq. So um, give me the issue. This is, this versus that issue, and then go right into Michigan law, and then analyze it, close it out with a conclusion. Make sure that you go back and read the question again to make sure that there's not a part two that you aren't thinking about and have missed. And if there is, give me a couple of lines under that. And it typically is going to be, like I said, a 2, maybe 3 point dessert that, if you're careful, you can get close to a 10 by just making sure that you have answered the question completely.
That's great advice. You don't want to miss out on that dessert. Every point counts. So
That's right.
Perfect. Do examinees get points for providing background information? For example, let's say it's a contracts question and the issue isn't really about formation. Is somebody going to get points for talking about contract formation or kind of giving you a background of the law that might not necessarily be in your rubric?
No. I am looking for very specific things based on the question and the answer that the Board of Law Examiners, in conjunction with the law schools, have deemed to be sufficient answers. So while you can give your background, it does not behoove you to do it because you're wasting precious time writing that will not ever earn you points. Answer the question. Answer the question.
That makes sense. You might as well spend your time on what's actually going to get you points. So,
yes, answer what is asked. Do not go outside of it, and make sure that you do it to the fullest, completely.
are examinees expected to include everything that is in the examiner's analysis in their essay answer?
Oh, no, no. For instance, I often have folks ask, do we have to include the case law to support our answer in the rules section? And I say, absolutely not. And I actually hate that the model answers include case law because it can easily confuse examinees throughout the summer as they're preparing and put a lot of unnecessary stress and pressure on them to now not just learn the law and remember it, but know where it came from and remember that as well. You don't have to know that. So if it's a personal property question, I don't need the law for how we arrived at the different elements of, giving a gift. I don't need the law that has fleshed out the varying elements of hearsay or relevancy. I don't need that. I just need you to tell me what it is, just define it.
That's very reassuring, I'm sure, to a lot of people too, because we get that question a lot too. And especially some of the examiner's analyses are, 7 or 8 pages long. So obviously somebody isn't expected to write that in 20 minutes. So thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see test takers make?
Again, I think the 2 biggest are not reading the question fully and just leaving off the second half of the question and not providing an answer for it or to it. And then I also see folks wasting time giving me information I don't need or that is obvious. Please do not summarize the facts and just repeat them at the very beginning. And it's a full page of the question. I don't need you to write the question and then on page 2, halfway into your time, you began telling me what the law is and then doing an analysis and then giving me a conclusion. Your analysis is going to focus on the facts. So don't waste your time repeating the facts in the beginning. Wait until the analysis so that you feel, aha, here's my time to really parse through these and discuss each fact that I'm given and explain why it matters or it doesn't matter. And if it matters, what it goes to, what element it's connected to.
That makes a lot of sense, especially because you read 700 of these essays. You know the facts. You don't need a recitation of them at the beginning.
And it's a waste of their time. I have
That's very
given full credit to answers that were very short because it was tight writing and they did not waste one single word.
Do you
And they
prefer
even would space it out, where it was one line was the issue, and then 3 or 4 lines, that was the rule, and then another space, and then another maybe 7 or 8 lines is analyzing the facts using the rules, and then another space and a 1 line conclusion. And they gave me everything I needed, and it was a 10 pointer.
perfect? Concise saves you time. Do you prefer like the shorter, more to the point answers, or does it not make a big difference to you?
It doesn't make a difference because that is just individual writing style. And again, this is not an English exam. So if you are a wordy person, you're not going to run the risk of not being awarded the point that your answer deserves. It's just easier for your grader to, read a 1 to 2 page answer and you have everything there nice and clear versus a 4 to 5 page answer and I'm hunting for it. But I will hunt for it. Again, I'm looking for reasons to give you points. I'm not trying to run a gotcha exam and see how I can help you fail.
That is nice to hear, and I'm glad that us, long-winded people aren't necessarily punished.
You are not. You are not.
I'm the opposite of concise, so that's good to know.
So am I. So I think that that's also personally why I'm not judging here.
Do you ever see anything unusual, like people like begging for points or doing things that it's just like, don't do that on an essay?
Um, every once in a while you run into an honest, transparent examinee who says, I'm running out of time, but I hope I've written enough to get enough points to pass. You don't get even points for typing that. Is entertaining? Yeah. Um, do I feel bad for the person? Maybe. But again, my rubric is my rubric. And there are so many steps that the Board of Law Examiners goes through, including working with the various law schools on this bar exam and how to grade it, that I can't, even if I wanted to, deviate from it. And that wouldn't be fair to other examinees. Every examinee is judged by the same rubric. So there's no well, this examinee got more points because they were more comical or because they just asked the grader to have mercy on them. No, you could have saved those 2 lines and actually given me an extra line in your analysis and got an extra point possibly. But you chose to write me a note, personal note. Okay.
Yeah, save the sob story. Instead, just write something that's actually going to earn you points. That's good advice.
Yeah, no, save it for a note card to someone, not for your bar exam grader.
And do you recommend practicing past essays? Is that a good way to improve your essay score overall, would you say?
Oh yeah. So um, when I work with students during some of these summer programs, before I became a grader, I would always say, you don't want to have to learn something the wrong way and then teach it to yourself just to learn it the right way. So learn it the right way the first time. The best way to do that is to, in my opinion, read an old essay question, immediately read the model answer so you can see the examinee or the examiners are telling you they want you to answer the question something like this, right? So that's now your model. And then go back and read the question again. And based on the model that you read and your knowledge, try to draft an answer to see how close you can get to that model that you just read and it's fresh in your brain. That's actually, in my opinion, helping your brain to learn it the right way the first time, as opposed to simply reading a question and then you immediately start drafting your own answer based on what you think it should be. You're not grading your exam. These exams are graded by graders who have to follow rubrics. that are set for them based on the model answers. So do it the right way based on the model answer so that you don't have to say, oh, I got that wrong and I was thinking way over here. Oh, I've been thinking that way for the last 6 weeks that I've been studying. I got to now learn it this way that the model examiner or that the examiners have laid out in the model answer. So don't do all of that. Just start with, okay, that's the model answer. That's how I need to be thinking as I am going through my brain thinking about how to draft my own answers.
That is great advice. Well, thank you so much, Victoria. I really appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank you so much.